Good morning, dear participants joining us this morning. We're glad to have you on this call. Thank you for joining once again. And the event will be starting right away in less than 4 minutes, just for us to have more of our participants joining us this morning. And I would like to recognize the presence of our honorary Professor Ngozi Udiaka, who is currently on the call. And we also like to recognize the presence of Dr. Godwin as well, who is our guest speaker for today, and all other facilitators that will still be joining. Just in a few minutes, the event will commence shortly. Thank you very much, and we hope it's going to be a transformative and insightful event indeed this morning. Thank you once again for joining. And please feel free to share the flyer with your colleagues and loved ones across all social media. They shouldn't miss out in this enlightening event. Thank you. Once again, our fellow audience joining us across the nation. Thank you for joining us in the day 2, which is the final day of the National Food Fest, the Agri-Food Virtual Workshop for 2020 in commemoration of the World Food Day. It's our joy to have you join us this morning. And yesterday was a wonderful session indeed, discussions centered around building a resilient food system in achieving sustainable living for all. It's due for us to engage in actions. And yesterday we had a discussion mainly on strategies, actions, and opportunities for reaching a world without hunger. And this morning, it's going to be another engaging time for us and very transformative time for each and every one of us, as we are having some experts, from food experts in our midst, that are also going to be providing strategies, solutions in reaching a world without hunger. And starting this morning is our own professor in person of Professor Ngozi Odiaka. She is the co-director of Sustainable Development Solutions Network Nigeria. Good morning. We are glad to have you on the call this morning. Thank you for staying through yesterday, and thank you for also joining us today, man.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone this morning from wherever you are, within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. It's a pleasure being together again today, and I must thank you all for making yourselves available. I think if there's anything we need to do now, it is what we are discussing under the National Food Fest that has been put together by the SDSN Youth and SDSN Nigeria. We are grateful. On behalf of the director, Professor Labode Pukbola, and members of the council, I want to welcome you all again. I just have very little work to do this morning, just the opening call, and I really appreciate you all for coming again. Like the youth coordinator said earlier, yesterday was really mind-blowing, and I was grateful to God that I was able to stay all through and to listen to experts talk on what we need to do, solutions on the issue of hunger, the resilience that we are really looking up to do and to have in our nation, how we can build a resilient food system. And I was challenged. And I think one of the things that we said yesterday was that each family, each person should be able to have his or her own farm and to extend arms of fellowship to others around them. There's so many things the youth can do. I say we youth, I'm still a youth myself. So much that we can do to help our community, our family, our nation at large. And I hope at the end of this second day, minds would have been made up, ready to go to the field to do the needful. This morning, we are yet going to listen to mind-boggling issues, the future of food and agriculture in Nigeria, transformational pathways. I'm waiting to hear. My ears are itching to know the pathways to 2030, because we have to do something. We have to get to somewhere. And I believe that our facilitators are ready to help us out. We cannot but wait to listen to revolutionizing the food chain with digital technology for sustainable food systems. In one of the webinars that was conducted by the SDSM Youth also, we had an expert who spoke so much on issues of digital technology. And some of us are seeing and trying to see how we can get into it. Really, smart agriculture is it, at least for the younger ones now. And we will hear more about that and many more that we're going to listen to today. I hope you will open your heart completely and make them fertile enough to receive what they are going to tell us today, and making up our minds also to do the needful. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful and great time. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ngozi. Thank you for this wonderful welcome address and opening remark. Really appreciate you. We appreciate the impact so far and your support, ma. And right away, we'll be going straight to the first session, which is the keynote address on the future of food and agriculture in Nigeria, Transformative Pathway to 2030. And taking this session is Dr. Godwin Hasta. He is representing the Director General of ITA, Ibadan, and Dr. Godwin, he's the Project Manager, Cassava Maize Value Chain ITA. Good morning, Dr. Godwin. We are so glad to have you on this call this morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I didn't know. Sorry about that. You can go on, Godwin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Good to see you, and good morning to everyone. Please permit me to share my slide.
Yes, you can share, sir.
Okay. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, we can see it, sir. Perfect.
Okay. I'll be talking about building a resilient food system for all. I think that's the topic that the letter indicated. So I prepared a slide in this context, but
okay.
As we go on, I will touch on some other aspects. I think this is all embracing topic. Let me talk a bit more on sustainability or sustainable agriculture in ITA and how we look at it. For us, the goal of sustainable agriculture is to meet society's food and textile needs in the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So whatever we are doing, whatever technology we develop, we want to see that such technologies, they're actually addressing the current challenges, but they are at the same time not undermining the possibility of future generations. So that is sustainability or sustainable agriculture as we have it here. Now, we look at sustainable agriculture in 3 dimensions. And the first dimension is in terms of the environmental sustainability. And therefore, whatever innovation we are proposing, we have it at the back of our minds that such innovation must be environmentally friendly. For instance, the use of crop protection products, for instance, the use of fertilization. How do we approach these innovations, ensuring that they do not harm the environment? Then we also look at sustainable agriculture in terms of economic profitability. And here, our concern is that whatever innovation or technology we are developing or promoting, it must be able to bring about economic return in terms of increasing productivity, so that farmers, for instance, have good food. But again, if they take the food to market, how does the market respond to that? Does it lead them to have better livelihoods? If it makes the farmers poorer, then it is not economically sustainable, and therefore we drop such innovations. So innovations or technologies developed in or from IIT, coming out from IIT, must be economically profitable. Then the third dimension, which is very important, is social equity, or what you can talk, maybe term inclusivity. And here we are looking at sustainability in terms of to what extent it is able to attract the participation of women and youth, for instance. So technologies must be able to bring all the actors, not just the men, but also the women and the youth. So these are the dimensions that we look at when we talk about sustainability in IIT. And in fact, once you have these dimensions incorporated in a given system or a technology, then you will see that such innovation will be able to stand the test of time. Now, what is the current situation of the food system globally? And of course, looking at Africa and Nigeria. This is a matrix of the current challenges that the food system is currently being faced. And this has a lot of consequences on farmers and consumers. So today, the food system is being disrupted on several dimensions in terms of the rural population growth, in terms of conflicts. In Nigeria, it's becoming very important. You have the community conflicts, but again, in recent times, we have seen that the conflicts between herders or herdsmen and crop farmers, those conflicts have escalated, and they are actually threatening the food security. Climate change is there. Again, on conflicts, before I move to climate change, we have all of us witnessing what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, and how this is affecting the food chain. Again, climate change is there, biodiversity loss, population, even the population growth, while on one side is a plus, on the other side, we have more people to feed now, more demand for food and all that. Again, even the incomes that we see coming from the growing middle class, we are beginning to see that the demand for meat, for instance, is increasing. And because this is happening, there is need. We are seeing situations where intensification is on the rise, and this is also hurting the prices of cereals, for instance, because instead of using cereals to feed humans, we are using those cereals to actually feed animals. So in summary, we see that we have food shortages, poverty, price instability, food safety, and undernourishment as a result of this matrix of constraints that I've mentioned. Now, how does it look like in sub-Saharan Africa? If you look at the yield per hectare, or what we call productivity of cereals, and here I put maize and rice as a case study. If you look at these two crops, you see that Africa has not done so well. In fact, Africa has not done well because on one side, we see that the productivity or yield per hectare of these cereals in Asia is on the rise. Africa has not made much gain in that, irrespective of the fact that some of the innovations that actually transform Asia are also on the African continent. And therefore, Sub-Saharan Africa today is faced with the issues of low productivity. Climate change has further compromised the situation and made it even worse. Poverty in Africa is on the rise. We have poverty rate of $1.09, which is that people have. Many people are living below that or even around that threshold. And then recently, we know what COVID-19 did to the food system generally, because of the blockage, the restrictions, the logistics involved in movement. We had that being affecting the food system, especially in Africa. So what does all of this mean? Africa is still food independent in order to meet its food demand. We are not food secure currently. Now, look at the situation in Nigeria. It's not much different if you compare Nigeria and Thailand. Again, you see that the productivity or yield per hectare is still, Thailand is doing much better. In fact, in terms of Nigeria, when you look at rice in 2020, we had a rise we had this rally in 2015, but then the trend is we have a nosedive again in 2020. So we are not food secure. And again, if you go to the market, rice today, we know how much it is going, the cost per bag of rice. Now, we talk about cassava, that we are the largest producer. Yes, and that is good news. But then again, if you look at yield per hectare, you will see that even a country like Tanzania is doing much better because by 2019, our productivity or yield per hectare is going down while Tanzania is going up. So why are we the largest producer? We are the largest producer simply because we have a population, but in terms of what each farmer is producing, it is less than 10 tons per hectare, which is not good. So we are not doing well, and this has implication. As I said earlier, this morning, if you open the papers, you will see that inflation in Nigeria is now more than 20%, about 20.77%. And this is driven basically as a result of the food inflation that we are witnessing. Nigerians are still relying on foreign foods in order to meet their challenges, and this is not good. In fact, the sad situation was that Africa had to go to Ukraine to go and beg Ukraine and Russia to send food, to send wheat to Africa. This is a shame because people that are fighting war, we are depending on them for food. It should be the other way around. Africa should take opportunity of the war in Ukraine in order to feed itself. Nigeria should be able to take advantage or take opportunity of the current crisis, not just to reap in terms of high oil prices, but also to see how they can be a net exporter of food in order to increase their revenue. However, the situation currently is not so. Now, let's look at cassava. What is really happening in cassava that our productivity is low? Is because we don't have a formal seed system. So farmers are basically using local varieties. And then sometimes government want to intervene in the seed system of cassava, but this is done in a not well organized fashion. So improved varieties hardly get to farmers in the right quantity that they need to transform their livelihoods. And because the multiplication ratio of cassava is very low, unlike cereals, it becomes a bit difficult for farmers to actually multiply cassava quite fast. So there is innovations that we have. There are innovations we have here in IIT that we have tested, and I'll be talking about the building an economically sustainable integrated cassava seed system project that is driving some innovation in the seed system of cassava here in IIT, working in Nigeria, but also in Tanzania. How are we trying to change this narrative? So we, 2 years ago, had this project in Nigeria, and the idea was to see how we provide farmers with access to affordable, quality assured seeds of cassava varieties, and then to establish a commercially viable seed system value chain that operates across the breeder, foundation, and commercial seed levels. This is the model of this seed system that we are currently implementing in Nigeria and Tanzania. The good news is that today we have commercial seed entrepreneurs, people that are selling cassava seeds or cassava stems and making good money from that. This is something that is good. Unlike before, cassava stems were not sold because they were not improved, and therefore farmers never had understood the importance of those varieties. But today, we have improved varieties, and farmers are making money from that. But again, the issue of low multiplication that I talked about, the project has been able to address that through the establishment of 2 companies in Nigeria, and 2 companies in Nigeria and 2 also in Tanzania. In Nigeria, we have IIT Go Seed and also Umudike Seeds. And these 2 companies are working hard to ensure that varieties that are produced by the breeding programs here are multiplied quickly and given to farmers. Now, before now, what used to happen was that once you have any new variety developed from the research institution, the researchers will publish their papers, and little or no efforts were made to actually disseminate these varieties. The area of dissemination was vested in the hands of the extension system. Unfortunately, we have an extension system that collapsed, and this became a problem. So we have a situation where now we have these early generation seed companies that are multiplying that, and the cassava seed entrepreneurs, people that are selling cassava, come to the early generation seed companies, buy these varieties, multiply them on their fields, and they sell the varieties. And we also have another component, which is the industry, the processor-led model, where industries directly come to the early generation seed companies, get improved varieties, give to their outgrowers who multiply. And with this, I must tell you that we've been able to address the issue of low productivity. Now, the yield data that we've seen on farmers' field has moved to more than 20 tons per hectare. So it is not just showing us graphics, but this is a success story of the Benue women group. These women are in Boko. They have their farm in Buruku, which is about 30-40 minutes drive from Boko. We started with them about 5 hectares. They moved to 42 hectares, and now they're cultivating about 100 hectares. In 2021, they cultivated 100 hectares. And what they're doing is that they're producing cassava stems and multiplying these stems and selling to farmers within the region and making money, sending their children to school, and also supporting their husbands and the whole family. You know that if you are able to support a woman, you support the whole family. So we see that happening in this women group. I must say that one of the things that they've done is that one of the training centers that was established years back, they are helping, they enrolled about 14 of their members into that training center to acquire Western education, to become more educated. And you can see the smiles on their faces as a result of growing cassava and making incomes. We're working with Oyo State to multiply seeds, and this is being fed into the agripreneur program of the state. And you can see how the feeds look like. And this is something that Oyo State is very excited. This year, they are growing 100 hectares, and we are working with them. We work with the GIZ, where I'm a project manager for cassava and maize value chain. And here we work very well with women because of the COVID-19. The idea was to see how we support women with innovations that can help them cushion the shocks coming from COVID-19. This woman never grew cassava. This is actually in Ogun State and Oyo State. But today, they are cassava seed entrepreneurs. They never thought that cassava seeds or cassava stem cells will be a source of income, a source of livelihood. But today, they're very excited about what they saw. In fact, some couldn't sell their materials. They have to actually expand their farm sizes. For those of you that know this woman, she's one of the women we worked with. She's a lecturer in the University of Port Harcourt, and the wife of the commissioner for Ogun State. But that's not the story that I want to tell you. She is a farmer. That is what she does. As you see her, she's very involved in farming. So we she contacted us that she wanted to go into cassava stem production and to be a cassava seed entrepreneur. And we brought her on board. She got some varieties, paid for them through Go Seed that I mentioned earlier, got these varieties planted, and she became a source of supply to other seed entrepreneurs in Ogun State. This is the yield from the farm. So as I said earlier, today we have improved stems having yields of 30 tons of farmer's feed versus local stems with 15 tons. This is something data that we harvested on the plot, comparing local varieties and improved varieties. Now, going forward, how can we build resilience and ensure the sustainability of the gains we have made and ensure that these are sustainable? Of course, you know that IITA's mandate is to look at the whole of Africa. But again, there is need for our government to invest and scale proven technologies to new geographies, new states, because we are not in all the states in Nigeria, for instance. But this proof of concept of what is happening needs to be amplified. Linkage to research is key. So how can we revamp the extension system linkage to research extension linkage? That needs to be revamped and strengthened. And the extension system actually needs to be funded in order to play its role. Again, funding for research and particularly the seed system. The seed system, not just in cassava, but other crops, needs to be funded because we need a seed as the bedrock for agricultural transformation. The green revolution that happened in Asia, in Latin America, from the wheat, for instance, started with the seed. And we can't achieve any other, we can't achieve anything unless we look closely at the seed system. So thank you so much for listening. And I look forward to your comments. If there are any, if there's room for that, or questions. Over.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate the insightful session which you've given us. We just like to ask one or two questions from our participants on Zoom. Kindly raise your hand should in case you have a question. And I also have a question with me here as regards the development of agricultural sector. When it comes to, okay, there's a question, let me just ask it directly the way I have it said. I said, what developments are currently placing pressure on agriculture to innovate and meet future demands?
Yes, as I said earlier, we have the issues of climate change, for instance. If you look at the matrix that I showed, those constraints are actually affecting agriculture. And as I said earlier, climate change is one of them. This year we have seen what the rains are this October, and it is looking as if we are in June. So climate change, farmers cannot actually guess when to plant their fields, when to harvest. New pests and diseases are coming up. Then we have the issue of flood, and in some cases, drought, becoming unpredictable. So this is something that we are faced with, is a reality. But then again, we also have the issue of COVID-19 actually affected the agricultural sector, and we need to understand that, yes, from the analysis that we had from experts, we have COVID, but we must be prepared, and therefore there's need to build resilience in our food systems. We also talk about the issue of conflicts. So I think that first slide speaks a lot on some of the challenges. But again, in our context, we have the challenge funding for agricultural research. We have colleges of agriculture in our universities. The question is, to what extent are we even funding those colleges of education or departments of agriculture? So these are some of the things that we need to actually address if we want to take food really seriously.
Thank you very much, Dr. Godwin, for that wonderful response. I just want to ask, on behalf of our young entrepreneurs, agro-entrepreneurs that would like to invest in or embark on cassava seed production or engagement, what process, I mean, in engaging with IIT, how can they get to connect and register for that kind of training, sir?
That is very simple. What you can do is to send an email to me. We'll put it in the database. And if there is any training that we have in next year, because this year is almost gone, I can't advise you to plant cassava now because we are entering the dry period. So we can look at that first quarter of next year, and we'll take you through that, train you, and then what we don't do is that we don't give free seeds anymore. People need to buy seeds because we have tried the model of giving free seeds and people throw them away. So now people need to buy the seeds. So when you buy the seeds, you also become someone that when your seeds are matured, we can also refer people to you in order to get the seeds. So it's as simple as that. You invest in the seeds, but of course you are you're sure that you're going to make more money from your cassava. In fact, we did a comparative analysis between farmers that produce only cassava for roots versus people that produce cassava for roots and stems. We discovered that for those that produce for stems and, in addition roots, you have times 3 or 4 gain compared to people that are producing cassava just for roots. So this makes a good business case for young people and for all of us to go into cassava production.
Thank you very much. I think we have Mr. Matthew. Mr. Matthew, the admin will unmute you to ask your question. Please kindly tell us where you're connecting from, your name and your question in 30 seconds, sir. Mr. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Matthew.
Good morning. My name is the founder of connecting from Cassava State. I want to ask a lecture this morning. My question is, your organization, sir, is it an NGO for profit making?
Mr. Matthew, can you please
no,
be more audible?
Second question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello?
We can hear you now. Just try to be more audible.
Yes, I said your organization. I've been seeing this on my song severally. I really want to know what it about it. Is it for profit making or the kind of NGO for not profits making? And secondly, how can why is the organization just focusing on one particular region? Thank you. That's my question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Matthew. Doctor, please, before you answer, I would like Mr. Mustafa to also ask his question so that he can respond to the two questions at once. Mr. Mustafa, you can.
So what was the first question he asked? Whether we are NGO or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And why we are focusing on Cassava?
Good morning. Why you are focusing only on one particular region? Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Matthew. Your question will be attended to. Mr. Mustafa, please kindly unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good morning. I'm Mustafa Raviu calling from Adamawa State. Yeah, my question is directly personally to the presenter. Being the essence of this cassava farming was to make it robust and more of mechanized way of dealing with people's need. So my concern is that how can we harness the challenges of this of climate change and as well the good production of this cassava in order to have a better way of dealing with our production.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mustafa, for that question. All right, over to you, Doctor.
Okay, so the first question was about IITA. So IITA is actually an international agricultural research organization. We have a mandate for Africa, and so all our research cuts across Africa. In Nigeria, we work across Nigeria. We have a station in Kano. That station works more on the crops that are predominant there, which are maize, and soybean is also part of it. Maize, but more of cowpea. Cowpea is the beans that we eat. So anytime you are taking beans, you are also taking part of our research. Then in Ibadan, we are headquartered here, and we work on all the crops in Ibadan because Ibadan has all the agroecology, except for the far north. But then we have some part of dry savanna and also some rainforest. So we work on cassava as an institute. We work on cassava is one of the crops we work on, maize, banana and plantain, cowpea, yams, soybeans. So these are the crops that we work on. We have a station in One in Rivers State, and there we also work. Our work there is more on cassava, but also on bananas and plantain. In fact, that is the home of our banana breeding program. We have a station in Abuja. So if you are in Abuja, you don't need to connect Ibadan. You just go to Kubwa. Our station is there. They will give you the support that we need. And our research cuts across all parts of the country. In Adamawa, we have a project that is currently going on in Adamawa and goes as far as Bono and Yobe. This is a project, no, not Yobe. southern Borno and some part of Borno State here. But we have an office in Biu and also in Yola. Now, what we do is we have work across Nigeria. So anytime you can easily see IITA vehicles moving across Nigeria. We work with our partners that are scattered also across the country. So anytime you take cassava, maybe somehow you are eating part of the work that we do. Then the other thing is, so I've addressed the issue of focus on one region. Then how can the challenge of climate change with cassava production? Yes, the good thing is that cassava here, we have some varieties that are drought resistant. And these varieties that we can consider, one of them is the Dixon variety, which is actually resistant to drought, but also it's resistant to cassava mosaic virus, which we call in some parts of the country Apollo. It squeezes the leaves and make them a bit yellowy. So that is one way we can address climate change. The good thing about cassava is that it's a hardy crop, and it can on its own also withstand climate change. That's why we call it the crop for the present and also the future for Africa. Yeah,
absolutely.
So maybe I can stop at that point.
Thank you very much, Dr. Godwin, for that wonderful information you've just shared with us, sir. And I believe we can further engage with you, just like you mentioned, via email. And to the participants that are on this call, we are going to share that with you and the presentation slides. And some people are already asking about the presentation slide. We are going to have it. And I'm also glad to inform that this session is being streamed on YouTube. So you can always go back to rewatch, and I can see a comment from one of our participants due to network issues you are having. So you can always check back on YouTube for the session. On behalf of the leadership of SDSN Nigeria, really appreciate you, Dr. Godwin, for the time, for the knowledge you've shared with us this morning around building a resilient system. Thank you so much. And I can guarantee you that SDSN Nigeria is, we are more focused on mobilizing and educating Nigerians, not just Nigerian youth alone, on pioneering solutions towards achieving sustainable development across all the SDGs. And definitely, I know that we have food innovators and people that are going to flip the script positively. Thank you so much for the time you've spent with us this morning. So I really appreciate you. I also like to introduce a speaker for the next session, that in person of Dr. Ajayi Ebenezer. Dr. Ajayi Ebenezer will be taking a session on revolutionizing the food chain with digital technology for sustainable food system. Dr. Ebenezer, good morning. We are glad to have you on this call. I know that it's a very busy and engaging period for you over there. Good morning, sir. Hello, Dr. Ebenezer. Okay, I think he's currently having network issues. We just have to wait in less than a minute. I know that will be back up. And I also like to share this information with us that by next year, January, SDSN will be embarking on an agro-upskill program. And the plan is to train Nigerian youth on some major aspects of agriculture, which I am even glad to have been able to note one other point, which is the aspect of cassava seed and enterprise, then honey beekeeping, which is a part of it, vertical farming, and some key areas of agriculture which can help to build the food production. And just like Professor Diaka said yesterday, it's very important for us to grow what we eat, and we should endeavor to grow what we eat, and also endeavor to eat what we grow. Yeah. So by next year, January, please, let's look forward to these opportunities from SDSN Nigeria. I would like to just put a call through to Dr. Ebenezer directly to know the status with him. Please, just in a minute. I think he will be back online shortly. Thank you.
Emmanuel, unmute yourself, please.
Oh, sorry. So sorry. Dr. Ebenezer will be joining us shortly, but while we are waiting him join us, I would like to also give room to one or two participants to share feedback with us, basically how the program has impacted you and what are the things you are planning to do on your own part. And if you also have an innovation you feel you want us to hear about, you're free to say that just in less than 2 minutes. We'd like to have a feedback from each and every one while we are with Dr. Ebenezer to join us back. Please kindly raise your hand should in case you have anything to say in that regard. Okay. Do you have anyone? All right, Mr. Kichi, you can unmute your mic and speak just in a minute.
Yes, I really appreciate this section. In fact, the whole thing, I'm gaining a lot. And because these are things that will change our mindset as youth. Most of us, we are focusing more on taking CVs from one office to another, not minding the way things are. That all of us were created by God, and even the jobs that we are looking for, that we are submitting CV, it's also created by someone just like you, me and you. So I gain so much. I want to encourage all of us here, but I'm not pleased with the kind of attendance. We are 14 today. Is it that we don't want to grow ourselves to something? Such programs like this, not only giving you money, it can make you. I prefer someone teaching me how to fish than to give me the fish. Because if you give me a fish today, as I eat it will finish. But when you teach me how to fish, When I fish today, it finish, I'll always go there tomorrow and make more. So like this guy, you talk about honey. What I do in honey, because to get a hive now, is a modern hive, is very expensive. So what I do, like my parents used to do before, now I turn it, I mix a fabric clay pot. If you know what is a clay pot, you understand what I'm talking about. It's always produced by mud, but it's a special mud mix, and it gives you that. But now I mix that mud with cement, which is capitally not that intensive. You get it in affordable rate without spending more to get a hive. And one of the hive, depending on the size, it can give you 20 liters. It can give you more than. Once you incubate the bees, you can always multiply them, and they will always come. So I want youth today, we should focus more in agri. Today, many people know me because of the agriculture. I talk to people and high calibers of people that I'm connected today, not because of my educational background, but because of agriculture. If I tell you my educational background, you'll be surprised. But I used to sit with big people and talk. Sometimes I'll go on the media, inviting me to talk to the youth and all of that. As I speak to you, agriculture has given me I have an award into this. I won a state award in 2019 because of agriculture. Not because they were not judging me based on my qualification, but based on what we are doing. So that is my short point.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Matthew, for that great work you are doing. I believe that's a very great innovation and development at your hand, and I believe we have more people that are also going to take that same lead. And I would also like to see if we have any other person that has a comment or feedback so far as the program. Okay, Miss Amina, you can unmute your mic and give us your feedback while we start the next session.
Okay, good morning to everybody. And I'm from Nigeria and I'm a youth. And I joined this program because I kind of got interested in agriculture and climate change because of the program I attended. It was kind of a World Forum program. So I decided to join for Nigeria to see what is going on in the agricultural sector of Nigeria. And yes, I joined yesterday. And it was really, really like inspiring and educative because I learned a lot about like different things involved in agriculture. But also I have a complaint, which is like, I not really see many youths joining, like what the first speaker talked about, first participant. Like they're not really much youth. And I don't know, maybe it's because of lack of or adequate kind of awareness for youth to know that there's actually this program. I don't know if that's the case, or maybe youths are not just interested because it doesn't seem attractive to them. So maybe if there can be more ways to make it more attractive for youths to talk about agriculture, and it should be something that is not just about farming, because I know there's more to agriculture from what I've seen. There's actually more things. Maybe youths can also be engaged in advocacy. It doesn't have to be that they farm. They can be engaged in advocacy, talk about policies that can be implemented to help farmers, and also those that engage in other parts of the agricultural sector. And I know that there's just much more things that we can engage in. So if they can just be more like awareness, motivation, and so on. For me.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much for that wonderful feedback. And I think that's the challenge we all have to take. It's high time for us to bring in more youths to the system. I can say categorically that the program manager did well to share this update to over 3,000 youth network. And we have various people having various interests, climate, just like you mentioned, renewable energy, education, but high time we have more youths in the system in the agricultural space. Definitely we'll build more on that and raise more advocacy on how we can have more active youths on board. Thank you very much, Amina. Right about now, we'll be going straight to the first plenary session for today, which will be on optimizing the impact of project management for sustainable food system. And we have an expert who is a results-driven project management professional with several years of experience in fast-paced organization across different industries in Nigeria, ranging from technology, urban development, media production, business operation, and various aspects. And in person of Mrs. Raimat Amsu. Good morning, Ma. We are glad to have you on this call this morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ms. Hamnat.
Good morning.
Rihanna. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here. Let's see, let's get straight to business. So what I have before me, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, except it's not in a full screen mode.
Oh, just give me, let's see, I have another document. Please hold on. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet, Ma. You've not started sharing yet.
Not yet. Oh, okay. Just give me a second. I'm trying to get this to respond properly.
All right, that's fine. Just take your time. All right, just like I mentioned, the presentation slides for the two-day session will be shared with us via email. The program manager are going to share it with us as soon as we are done with the program. And please, there is also an evaluation form which will be shared with us. We appreciate each and everyone to endeavor to use that form and fill the form to give us good feedbacks. Thank you. We can see a full screen here now, man.
I see a full screen now. Okay. Hello everybody. Once again, my name is Rihanna Tomusu, and I'm very pleased to be taking us through this session. The learning objectives for this session are quite direct and straight to the point. So objective one will be to understand the concept of sustainability and food sustainability. First, we need to understand what this concept entails before we can optimize project management as it relates to food systems. The second objective would be to understand what food systems and sustainable food systems are. The next objective will be to know the different components of the food system, and then to understand how project management can be used to optimize benefits for each component of the food system. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. I'm getting some feedback from my audio, so I just needed to be sure. The concept of sustainability, right? It consists of fulfilling the needs of the current generations without compromising on the needs for future generations, but also while ensuring a balance between economic growth, environmental care, and social well-being. So as project managers, the objective is usually to ensure that every aspect of the project and all objectives and benefits of projects are being achieved. So we'll strive to, it's important that we strive to achieve a balance between economic growth, environmental care, and the social well-being of people generally. Now, the concept of sustainability as it relates to food sustainability. Food sustainability refers to the production of food in ways that promote the quality of life for people and animals in communities that produce this food, right? Preserves the environment, make effective use of natural resources, and guarantees economic prosperity. So this places emphasis on the communities where these foods are being produced. So it talks about making effective use of the resources available, and then such that economic prosperity in these communities are guaranteed. Food systems encompasses all of the steps involved in providing food and nutrition to humans. It includes all of the interactions between people and the natural world's effect on human health and nutrition, right? The roles that diet and cultural practices play, the inputs, institutions, infrastructures, and services that facilitate the smooth operation of all of these factors. Basically, the system it's an agglomeration of all of the inputs that are put together to provide food and nutrition to humans. Now, a sustainable food system, right, is the type of food system that provides healthy food to people and creates sustainable environmental, economic, and social systems that surround food. Again, this brings us back to the emphasis on creating sustainable environmental, economic, and social systems. So the balance between all of these three components is very, very important. Now, the components of the food system, right? So the food, you can't talk about the food system if you don't have this component, basically. So it's a value chain, so to speak, where we have food production, food distribution, food acquisition, and consumption. These are the components that make up the food system. Now, this next slide shows us like a graphical representation of how all of this would be tied around project management. Now, the emphasis is on people, processes, and principles. As project managers, we lay large emphasis on people, on processes, and the principles that surround how we get our jobs done. So there are a couple of methodologies, right? There are a couple of methodologies for managing projects. But as it relates to food systems, the most prominent or the most remarkable methodologies as it relates to sustainable food systems would be the Agile methodology and then the concept of the Lean Six Sigma. So the Agile methodology is an iterative approach which focuses on continuous incremental improvement through small and frequent releases in phases through the project life cycle. So I mentioned earlier that the food system is a chain of different components from production through distribution to acquisition and then consumption. Now, what the Agile methodology preaches is rather than have the entire process as one long iteration or one long step, Agile is suggesting that we break this down into iterative approaches. Actually, we break it down using an iterative approach. So we have smaller components that we can manage per time. Now, the Lean Six Sigma methodology is a hybrid initiative that identifies customers' desires. So that's paramount. What the customer's desire and requirement is of course very paramount. It eliminates waste. Lean Sigma places a lot of emphasis on eliminating waste and reduces variability. That's some rework and changes around how the food systems work. It combines Six Sigma structured problem solving using statistical tools with lean operations emphasis on flow improvement. So to eliminate waste, Lean Six Sigma is very particular about flow improvement, right? So it's believed that if we're employing the Lean Six Sigma methodology, the flow is improved, work processes are improved upon, and then wastes can be eliminated, right? The Lean Six Sigma also functions by streamlining business processes. So processes are streamlined, they are not left to chance, so to speak. Everything is clearly defined, processes are defined, quantities are defined, quality assurance is defined. And then as a result, it eliminates defective products and then minimizes waste. So you can't talk about Lean Six Sigma if you're not talking about waste reduction. The methodology is it's most appropriate in manufacturing basically. So if we're producing food, which is largely around the manufacturing sector, Lean Six Sigma is one methodology that project managers in that space really need to pay attention to. Now, I have broken down the food system into I broke down this food system into 4 components earlier on, and I did say that there's the food production, food distribution, food acquisition, and consumption. Now, as project management relates to food production, right? So at the point where we're producing food, we have a couple of activities, and then we have inputs as well. Activities that revolve around the section that deals with food production. It will include tilling the soil, then planting the seeds, weeding, and then harvesting. Right, those are the activities that those are the major activities when it comes to food production. Now, when it comes to the inputs that come to play for food production, we have land, labor, capital, water, and energy. Now, all of this makes up the food production component of the food system, right? Now, as it applies to this stage of the food system, there are a couple of project management tools that can be utilized to optimize projects in the food, optimizing the effect of project management in the food system, right? One would be the development of scope management plans. Now, this defines clearly what the scope of work is, right? It defines the scope of work. It defines different processes at which different methodologies through which we are defining scope, specifying user needs, specifying criteria for getting work done, and all of that. Another major tool will be resource allocation. Now, because there are lots of activities and inputs that go into food production, as project managers, getting the best of resources available is a major skill or major tool that project managers usually would employ, right? Because we know that resources are scarce. You don't have luxury of whatever resource that you need. It's almost impossible to get all the resources that you need. So project managers are skilled such that they're able to allocate these resources based on competing priorities. It's important that we're allocating resources to different activities in the course of food production, right? So we're allocating resources for the team that is tilling, for the team that is planting. We're able to say, oh, at this point, this is one resource that the tilling team would most likely need. At this point, the tilling team can hold on with this resource while the harvesting team uses it, and situations like that, basically. Another major component that project management would pay attention to when it comes to the food system is the development of integration management plans, right? Because the food system it comprises a lot of components. So it's important that the integration, the interfaces, the meeting points for all of these components is properly managed. That way we don't have gaps between the point of production and distribution, or from the point of distribution to acquisition, or even from the point of acquisition to consumption, right? It's important that the integration is managed. There are no gaps in the different phases of production. There are no gaps in the different levels across the value chain within the food system. Now, the integration management plans will comprise of tools like project roadmaps. So this, for an example, if we have project roadmaps, right, it shows us clearly where we are, where we're coming from, where we are, where we intend to get to, and how to get to these places. So it's clearly defined. The objective is stated from the onset. The entire team knows what is to be done. They know how it is to be done. They know the loopholes to look out for. We're talking about loopholes. I would also mention the risk management plans. So one major component of a project management plan that project management would do for the food system is the development of risk management plans. If we're able to identify our risk from the onset of the project, if we're able to identify risk, if we're able to say, oh, these are risks that have low probability, but they are very high impact, or these are risks that are very high probability and then they have low impact, or these are risks that have very high probability and also very high impact. It means that we're able to identify the things that could possibly go wrong, because trust me, things would not go as planned. It's one of the many skills that project managers learn to deal with, right? So if we have risk registers, if we have the mitigation actions already defined, it sort of add value. It optimizes the food system if this is defined from the onset. Now, task and schedule management is also another project management tool that can be employed within the food production, for the food production component. Right. So again, it brings us back to the issue of having things documented, right? If we're able to say, oh, this is what we need to do, this is where we are, this is where we're going, we're able to say, oh, Mr. A is going to do this on this project, Mr. B is going to do this on this project at this time. If we're able to declare now, tools that project managers would use would be either a Gantt charts or Kanban boards. Now this gives visual representation of what is to be done. So you walk into if there's a workspace, for example, you walk into that workspace and you're able to see the charts, either posted up on the wall or printed on something. So there's a Gantt chart that says, oh, this is where we are now, this is where we're going, this is what is being delayed, this is what we need to foster on. You know, this tools just helps to define a lot of processes and minimizes all of the gaps that can possibly come up. Workflow management and automation, right, is also another project management tool that can be utilized in the food production, for the food production component of the food system, right? So we're able to say, oh, this is what the workflow would be. This is what the work breakdown structure. So it details every activity. There's no oversight on any activity. And if everybody has a full grasp of what is to be done, if everybody says, oh, this is the detailed activity for this task, when it comes to tilling the soil, this is what we should do. Somebody needs to pick up this, somebody needs to deliver that. Every activity is documented. So it gives everybody a sense of direction. With the team being able to have clear-cut direction on what is to be done and how it's to be done, it optimizes processes. It eliminates any form of waste that could possibly come up for this component of the food system. Now let's talk about food distribution, right? We're talking about what needs to be done in the course of transporting the food. So there's transportation, there's processing the food that you're taking it out from the raw material stage, it's becoming is being processed, right? And then into the finished product. Now, in the course of processing, we're also going to look at what project management tools will work for storage as well. These are activities within the food distribution system. And then the food distribution component, rather. The inputs at this stage are transportation networks, processing plants, pre or post-processing storage facilities and energies. Right, so there are a couple of PM tools that work for this component and helps us to get optimized value at this level, right? First off would be schedule management, because distribution deals with a lot of people and a lot of, say, many people or many institutions per time and in different locations. It's important that there's a schedule management plan, right? So this is one tool that project management would employ or adopt, rather, to optimize processes as it concerns this particular component. So when it comes to schedule management, we're looking at project calendars. Say, oh, these are our milestones. These are the things that says, oh, this phase is done. These are the things, our critical parts are defined. We're saying, oh, these are activities that definitely have to happen at this point in time. And then the floats are also defined, activities that may or may not change or can be moved around here and there. Resource allocation is also something that it's also a project management tool that optimizes the food distribution component, in the sense that, oh, hello project manager, it's time to transport these goods. Oh, hello project manager, we need to do something about storage. So the transportation networks, the processing plants, the storage facilities, how do we assign resources, optimal use of resources? Again, it's something that would work effectively for this component of the food system. Now, another PM tool, as you can see on my slide, is task monitoring and dependencies. Because the food distribution component has it has standalone sub-components, right? Because transportation is a different ballgame on its own. Food processing is another ballgame on its own. Food storage is also a very big ballgame on its own, right? So if we're able to have we're able to do a lot of task monitoring and dependencies, we're able to say, oh, what are the dependencies and how would the flow work? Do we have items on the project plan that are start to finish, some that are finished to start, some that are start to start, some that are finished to finish, and then other project tracking tools, right? So when I say start to finish, finish to start, finish to finish, it's what task must start for another task to finish. That's what I mean when I say start to finish. What task must finish for another to start? We know that, oh, food must be, the production phase should have gone to a particular extent. There must be food that has been produced before we can say that, oh, we're transporting this food, right? So that's a finish to start kind of project flow. We produce the food, we transport the food, we process the food, we store it. So there are certain tasks amongst all of the thousands of tasks and activities that are here and there on the project. Monitoring, when you monitor tasks and you have dependencies clearly defined, it also helps to optimize the food distribution component of the food chain. Quality management plans, right? So when it comes to processing, storage, and preservation, it's important that the quality of these processes or these iterations are properly managed, right? So if we have a plan to say, oh, if we're processing food, this is the standard. These are the agencies or organizations that we need to reach out to and get certain approvals from. These are the standards defined by the concerned organizations in Nigeria. For example, storage. What's the storage of food like? What's the acceptable size? What's the acceptable temperature? What's the acceptable say architectural design for certain kinds of food to be stored in certain places? And then same applies to preservation as well. Now, because there's also a lot of activities that are put together, we cannot eliminate risk on projects. It's almost we cannot do without risk. So again, the risk management plans come to play at this level or within this component of the food system. We have risk registers and mitigation options clearly defined. So for example, a major risk top of my head at the moment for food distribution phase when it comes to say transportation is, oh, this produce is supposed to move from maybe IITA to the market in maybe Jericho or Bodija, right? A major risk is the risk of either a traffic jam or the risk of the vehicle transporting these goods. The vehicle transporting this food stuff developing issues, right? So a risk register will give me a list of everything that can possibly go wrong. If the vehicle breaks down, this is what my alternative is. If it rains and the roads are flooded, this is what my alternative is to meet up with the schedule for this project. if something goes wrong with storage, if, for example, a vendor is supposed to clear out a storage space so that we can move new items into these storage spaces. If, for example, that vendor doesn't come out to clear his goods out of the warehouse, that's also a risk that I can identify and prepare mitigation options for. So they say soft landing. As project managers, these are skills that we develop, right? So it's important that project management is fully incorporated into the food system. These are skills that are developed such that we're optimizing every single activity. You're getting utmost value out of every single activity at the different stages in the food system, right? So food acquisition. Now, a major activities that go into this components are marketing and purchasing. These are the very major activities for these components of the food system. Now, inputs, you have energy, you have grocery stores, you have markets. Basically, this is the buying and selling of all of the food that has been produced and distributed. Now, at this stage or within this component, right, a major project management tool that we can apply will be a stakeholder analysis. So we understand that there are different markets. If we're able to analyze our market to say, oh, this is our target audience, these are the markets that we're selling to. Are we selling to wholesalers? Are we selling to retailers? In the course of identifying our stakeholders, there's an analysis to say, oh, which of our stakeholders are very high power on certain projects and they have very high interest. What are we supposed to do? So if you have a stakeholder that has very high power and they have very high interest, are we keeping them informed? Are we communicating with them? How do we manage our communication with this stakeholder? If we also have stakeholders that have very high power and very low interest on projects, as project managers, there are skills towards communicating with these kind of stakeholders. There are a couple of stakeholders that have low power, but they have very high interest on projects. And then there are stakeholders that have low power and low interest, right? So analyzing stakeholders, understanding where each stakeholder sits across the project team, right, also helps us to optimize resources at this stage of the food, within this component of the food system. Now we've analyzed our stakeholders. Yes, we've been able to say, oh, these are the guys that have high power and high interest, or high power and low interest, and all whatnot. It's important that we engage them. How we are going to engage them is also important that we clearly define, because you're not going to engage the stakeholder with high power and high interest in the same way that you'll be engaging the stakeholder with low power and low interest. So there are tools towards doing all this thing. Procurement management planners, who would be our marketers? What will be the terms of engagement for our marketers? What's the contractual terms? What are the deliverables? What are the criteria for deciding what the procurement procedures will be? What things that work in different ways, right? Now, communication plan, there's no engagement if you're not communicating. So it's also important. Are we sending them newsletters every week? Are we sending them newsletters every month? Are we sending emails? Are we having project meetings?
Yes, Miss Miriam, sorry, I would like to crave your indulgence. We would like this session so that we can ask some.
If there are updates, how do we communicate? We want to send me an email. Some will say, oh, let's do it.
Hello?
Please say that again. Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yes, may I crave your indulgence, ma? I would like to have this session wrap up in less than 5 minutes so that we can have some questions and answers.
All right, no problem. Right. So again, tax dependencies also come up within this component of the food system. The last component on the food system is consumption. So how are we cooking this food? How are we eating this food? In the course of cooking, are we having resource, is there proper energy management? Are we adding to the problems of climate change and the like? Are we, so what are the procedures? What equipment are we using to cook? If we decide to eat, are we doing a lot more homegrown, homemade meals, or are we doing eating out, restaurants and the like? So a lot of all of these activities and inputs are also major players within these components of the food system. Now, project management tools that work effectively and that can optimize the systems within this component will be quality management plans. So we're able to say, oh, if we're going to cook these foods, these are the procedures through which we should cook. We should tail off open burning or freezing firewood to cook and stuff like that. We should be looking at environmentally friendly objectives or environmentally friendly methodologies towards cooking and eating. Energy resource efficiency, basically, is what we should be looking at. Now, if after adopting all of these project management tools through the different components that make up the food system, there are a couple of expected outcomes, right? So we have outcomes of optimized project management for food systems. First off, we'll have the economic development, because remember that I had mentioned cost saving, we're able to eliminate waste, we're able to, so there's a lot of savings, right? Cost management system, we'll have efficient cost management system. If you're putting in, if as an investor, you're putting in 5 naira into the system, you're sure that you're getting utmost value for that 5 naira, because it means that we won't have issues of defects. Remember that specification in the quality management plan was specified what it is. We've identified all of the tasks, so there are no defects. The efforts that is caused by reworking and scrap and then wastage is taken off. Then there's also a problem of overproduction. So we have so much, a lot is produced more than is actually needed. And then time is also a very valuable resource. So if we're able to save time, that also gives us economic development as it saves cost. Environmental development, now we're having reduction in carbon emission and pollution at all levels. So yes, again, that we don't have the issue of excess products and materials not being processed. That of course will result in waste and a lot of pollution. Transportation also is something. So we have carbon emission with the movement of vehicles and all of that, right? So we have, that is largely reduced if we're able to adopt these project management tools, because we don't have to do a lot of back and forth. All of the procedures are planned. Social development is also important in that there's a reduction in health and safety incidents. And because of motion, we are moving around, unnecessary moving around. So too many trips. If there are too many trips, when we could have project management tools or methodologies could say, oh, this one tool defines what's to be done. It tells us how many trips that we can make or how many and stuff like that. So there's also a problem of non-utilized talent. So you have people with very highly skilled people, but you're underutilizing them because you're not able to manage processes effectively. So these are the outcomes of optimized project management for food systems. I'm happy to take questions at this point before we wrap up the session.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for that enlightenment. I believe it's been an engaging one for each and every one of us. We'd like to throw it out to the participants to ask questions, and you can also use the comment section to drop your question. But I have a question with me here, that how do we best engage our local farmers with project management tools? How can we best engage? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. How do we best engage local farmers with project management tools? Yes. Is that the question, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so I usually like to say that everybody is a potential project manager. It's just that the training is different, and then acquiring these skills is different. If you've been able to plan an event, you're a project manager. You have tendencies to become a project manager. If you're able to say, oh, even farmers have a lot of prospects with project management, because they're able to say, oh, I'm going to plant, I'm going to harvest, so they can identify processes. All we need to do is just get training across to them, right? And trust me, the Project Management Institute, the chapter is open to doing trainings for organizations or partnering with farmers, partnering with organizations that work in the food space. Basically, if there are trainings that need to be done, we're open to giving trainings to farmers. We're open to enlightening them. We're open to giving them templates to monitor the procedures or processes through which their produce, through which the food system goes. And then we're also open to any form of trainings is something that the chapter is open to doing for farmers. And then there are lots of tools online. PMI.org is the website. There are lots of tools online. There are lots of resources and templates that they can also benefit from when they take a look at all of this. I hope that answers the question.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know if there's any question from our audience while we just wrap up this session and take the very last session for today, and we are done, because I know that we still have some other engagements, maybe at work or for some other events. And I really want to appreciate you, Ma, for this wonderful facilitation this morning. And
Thank
also
you for having me.
The leadership of Project Management Institute Nigeria, starting in person of Mr. Paul. Thank you, and Mr. Agboyega too. Thank you for all you do. Really appreciate you. Right about now, we are still going to take the question. We might still have to take the questions on project management. Please just drop it using the comment section. We'd like to take a basic section on revolutionizing the food chain with digital technology.
I can see a couple of hands.
Yes. We appreciate you drop your question using the comment section so that we can take questions and answer for the two sessions once and for all. Dr. Ajayi will be doing the session for just 10 minutes, and definitely I know he's leaving one engagement to join us for this again. Over to you, Dr. Ajayi.
Thank you very much for the privilege. Thanks for obliging me. Sorry, I have to run in between two sessions. That's why I'm not going to use up my 30 minutes. I hope I will not be talking too fast. I'm happy that this is live and can be found on the YouTube. All right, so sharing my screen right away. All right, so I'm going to talk about revolutionizing the food chain with digital technology for sustainable food systems. I want to quickly say that this is my own view as not directly as an agriculturist, but maybe from the angle of interdisciplinary approach, angle of interdisciplinarity, speaking as a biochemist, okay, and someone that eats food daily. All right. So the background for today is to establish to us that rapid innovation.
Full screen for your presentation.
No, my laptop has a little bit of setback. If I go full screen, it will not move.
All right, that's fine. I think this is clear enough. We just have to work with that.
All right.
That's fine.
Thank you. So rapid innovation and cross-value chain collaboration, they are very, very important for change. Okay, so that means there are traditional ways we have been doing things, and then there are ways we can improve on what we have been doing before. Sometimes not necessarily throwing away the traditional technology or approach of doing things. But then we need to make sure we increase the returns in a way that is attractive so that we can have returns on investment, including the time that is spent, the energy expended, the money put into agriculture, the human capital, including mechanization and several other forms of infrastructure that go into food production. Okay, so now the environmental, social, and governance impact is also something important we should pay attention to. We can't overlook it in a rush just because we want to make gains. So we have to also look at the impact it has on land itself, the impact it has on the people for who we are producing the things we are making on the farm as farmers. So we need to continuously train farmers this time around to use more of digital technologies in areas that have not been used before. Digital technologies maybe to access money, to make better, to make improvement on how they are making, they are producing their crops, or to access fertilizer or any other thing, okay, and then to even connect with themselves as groups. Now to invest in infrastructure, it includes mobile connectivity networks for crop and husbandry monitoring. You may want to monitor the soil pH, the condition of the soil, the water level in the soil. You want to see greenhouse humidity. Some of these farmers have to first raise crops or plants in nurseries before taking them to the bigger field as per macro propagation. Then how much light can you find in such greenhouses? Then what about pest detection? When we have pests attacking the crops, how can we detect? It's one thing for us to observe these things by watching our crops. It's another thing to also be able to use artificial intelligence to detect this pest. And then how can we track animals? Because some farmers are also into animal production. If they are ranging out of their pen or ranging out of their ranch, especially in untoward hours of the day, how would you know that one of the animals is already out of the pen or out of the ranch, and you can quickly go to stop it? I know a friend that raises dogs, and over the night, one of the dogs went out to a neighbor's compound and killed 10, were they 10 or 20 chickens, fowls before morning, and he already had some of them. So we didn't want such things to happen, for example. So how can we also monitor distribution of our crops or our animals? Sometimes you see big vehicles and vans carrying pigs from one farm maybe to the market to sell. Okay, these are just pictures I quickly want to paint. Why would we need technology to drive the food chain and to make more value from it? Now, the food, water, energy, nutrition nexus is something that is already established. The food we produce, either plant food or animal food, they are for certain people to eat, to depend on, okay? And then the water, the plants will need itself, the water the animals will need is something that is very, very important. You can't have a farm that does not have water supply or water facility. How do you do cleaning of animal pens and cages? How would you do irrigation for your plants? Then the energy that will be got from these things, sometimes we have to make our animals depend on plant foods from a neighboring farm or from the same farm. Okay, so, and overall, when humans eat this, it delivers certain energy level to them, fulfilling nutrition. So it's a nexus. All of these things are connected. So when we talk about farm to fork data transparency, what is the quality that goes into the production of this food? Do we just do indiscriminate application of pesticides? Do we just use indiscriminately injections for animals? Sometimes they give insulin injections. Sometimes you get to some pens and you see different syringes and needles littering everywhere. They do not really follow the dosages. They just inject them so that they get big within very short time to increase milk production, to increase egg production, and all of these things we end up consuming them. So this nexus can be compromised, sometimes because of gain. So sometimes we even think about if you can add more, maybe it can be better. So people just spray their farms indiscriminately, and these things get retained in the crop itself, and sometimes still get retained in the soil. So they get perpetuated even when you plant some other crops in the following season. Then we talk about net zero food waste. Most of the food produced are wasted, really. So if you look at how much food is wasted compared to the number of people in the population, you realize that maybe the waste can even be enough to feed the poor people that are begging for food around. And that also contributes to emission of greenhouse gases, the CO2 emission. So food waste is one way that we have to check, because overall, all these things affect climate change. We have 8.3 billion people in the world, let's say. Even in Nigeria alone, we have above 310 million right now. So if you look at how much food people waste, how much food goes to waste, and can we convert this waste to wealth? Can we convert this, because we recycle this waste to enrich the soil and then make more food? So we talk about circularity. How sustainable are we practicing circularity for bioeconomy? We can gain lots of money on every point of this as the food chain. So if you carry waste from a pig pen, or you carry waste from cattle ranch, you can put it back into your ground, and then to boost the production of food crops. You can practice vertical farming. Sometimes maybe you don't have enough space. So everyone should be involved, not leaving anyone behind. Say leaving no one behind. Okay, so everyone can be involved. You can't say because you don't have space in your compound, you cannot practice farming. So you all also put into the value chain. You can't say we are waiting for one region of the country to send supply of beans or onions before you have them in the supply chain. So everybody should be involved in this, however little the expanse of land may be. So we say you should grow a garden in your house. Your garden may be a pot just sitting on the fridge or on the kitchen table, and you pluck your your tomatoes and pepper directly from there. That will be something, or you pluck your okra from there. But then for the people that really practice it in something in a large extent, then they can take it to the market and money goes round. We were discussing in my community 2 days ago after the community meeting, and we were saying that if you look at forming a cooperative to plant potatoes. One of us was saying a farmer looking tattered, I think one of these Hausa boys went to use the POS and he couldn't use it because the connection was bad. He couldn't get money withdrawn. So he now said, can I just check my balance? Somehow the operator was able to check it and told him. The operator was surprised. He was shocked really when he was seeing like 5 million naira in his account. Okay, hopefully maybe that is also from his farm activities. Okay, so it's something we have to look at. They are the ones feeding the nation. Farmers feed the nation, and these farmers can be anybody. But are we participating in this? How well are we playing in this improvement of food chain? Are we supporting? Are we financing? What stage are we doing? Are we in the farm directly, or do we have the land? Are we landlords? Who are the people that have access to the land that we have? So we have traders and consumer behavior on food. So how do you put in mind that you are producing healthy food, not just because I want my money, I know I will sell it for this much, but is it healthy food that you are producing? Is it a land that needs bioremediation? Is it a land that is carrying lots of toxic waste and you are still going ahead to plant beans there? Who would not know that the beans is something that is not good for health? So we have to be truthful, we have to be transparent so that we put our consumer in mind. And the behavior of the consumer also, like, as I've said, we should not waste food, okay, so that we don't increase the greenhouse gas emission. Then about the global food security, we have lots of threats to these. We have famine, we have drought, we have fire, we have all of these things. They can be predictable. We have satellites up there that can predict the occurrence forecast when these things can happen. Right now, flooding is all over, I think, more than 20 states across the country. Definitely, the farmers affected cannot go to their farms, okay? And the homes that are affected, who knows how much of food is in each of those houses, okay? Definitely, they are going to waste. And what about insurgency that would not allow people to go to their farms? What about oil spillage? These are issues that the World Economic Forum, the World Food Forum, the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, and FARA, and all of those bodies are talking about as we are celebrating this auspicious moment around food and agriculture. So it's my talk now is just to sensitize us. There are many people who are out of school as graduates already, and they are looking for white-collar jobs around. Why can't you form something? Find a niche you can create for yourself along the value chain and see how you can make things better for food production. Remember, all hands should be on deck, leaving no one behind. Let's look at agroecology for healthy foods. Lesser and lesser monocropping. These are kids that can cook. Some people talk about that, how to encourage young children to cook. I'm leaving the link there. So how to teach people to cook healthy food. It starts young. You have to let them imbibe these qualities right from time. Just now that I left the presentation of our 400 level students doing their internal defense for their project, one of them was talking about food additives, these dyes, and how they use them in cakes and other foods. So we should understand that however good the aesthetics may be when we use such dyes, we have to be careful how we apply them. Okay, so we begin in this group where kids can cook, where they do it, they teach young children how to the sense of touch, the sense of smell, taste, and cooking in their classes. And then on the World Food Day and every day, all of us can indeed work towards a sustainable future, not the kind of food that we eat and after like 10, 15 years, we have kidney failure, we have some organ failure. So what's the essence of all the monies we will make if we sell such foods that are not healthy? Okay, then I want to mention the inclusion of black soldier flies to digest organic waste. We have to make waste. There is no way that there will not be food waste, yes, but we are trying to say that we minimize them, not just anyhow. There must be a need, indeed, that there are food waste. When we peel yam, we peel cassava, you go to where they make and process gari, you see all the waste. You see where they have waste of when they harvest maize, and all the waste that come from there. And I remember just now, people have waste, carry waste of plantain and banana trunks, and then they change it to something else, okay, for weaving. So they press it and make a sash out of it, like ropes, and those ropes are used to make some other goods. That is value addition. After already eating the plantain, after already eating the fruit from it, all this waste can be turned to wealth. It's from waste to wealth. All right. So the black soldier flies, we eat on the larva of the black soldier flies, we feed on this organic waste and turn it to soil-like mash, and that mash is called gold dust. That gold dust can be put to grow vegetables, grow tomatoes, grow fruits around us, can be deployed to do bioremediation, to recover a land that whose soil has lost all the nutrients and ability. So all of these things can be poured back into the food chain to improve the quality of food that we produce. All right, so organic farms to farmer market.
I would like to pay your indulgence, sir. I know you are still taking us very far, but I also appreciate.
No, I have very, very few slides, maybe 2 more slides after this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so there are farms where farmers, they take it from farm to farmers market. You can go there to buy healthy foods if you are not very sure what kind of food you are taking. I've talked about getting interest loans. It should not be too high for farmers if we really want to improve food production. So we can give them 1-digit loans. We know things are not very easy. Like I said, in any area, at whatever stage we find ourselves in the food production stages, either in packaging, either in distribution, and in the production itself, farmers can really access loans. These points that I've identified, they can also access loans. We can process. There are big plants that are used to process tomatoes before it becomes tomato puree, and then there are big plants also used to dress chickens before they can become cut into pieces as frozen chicken. But all of these points we can support so that we can have food distributed across the country and even for export. Quickly, I want to mention, I saw something recently, and they were talking about an association for a chemical thing in Nigeria, and the way they arrange what they do is very, very absurd. They said association for chemical what, and they said exporters, importers, and what's it called? Those that make something, not distributors. My problem with that is that why would you first of all think about exportation and then importation before you start making? Why don't you start making first and then export and talk about importation? So we get it all wrong many times, okay? So we have biotechnology deployed to improve seeds and organisms in a way that is being genetically modified. Not everybody loves that. Not everybody wants to eat such food. So can you trust labels on food when they say it's halal or something fit to eat? Do we also always declare everything that goes into such food when we make them? So not leaving anyone behind advocates that even women and children can get involved. I saw the presentation of the doctor that spoke earlier. I was driving at that time. He talked about empowering women, encouraging women to grow into agriculture and to even develop cassava seeds, and they make a lot of money from there. It is sustainable because it is practicable, and children can enjoy the social learning from this to unleash their suppressed creative and innovative energies. That way they acknowledge the significance of indigenous authentic knowledge. Like the story of Achika Ezeobo talking about Taza, an indigenous irrigation technique, I think in Kenya or Tanzania. World Bank wanted to give them high interest loan, and they insisted that they would not want it that way. They negotiated for something lower, and again they insisted that they will use their own indigenous traditional African knowledge or technology as against the irrigation from Western world. And at the end of the day, they had to do an experiment. The yield from the farm where they use this indigenous technology by creating 20 to 30 centimeter wide hole and 20 to 30 centimeter deep across the field where they planted to retain water, the yield was like over 20 times more than what they got from the other irrigation using Western technology. This is something that is very nice. You can check the video. Then there is this inclusion of digital tools to assess seed. There are people that give free seeds in some countries. In Argentina, for example, they encourage homeowners to grow gardens All you have to do is go to the website and indicate which seeds you want. Within a few days, they pick the seeds, get it ready, and let you know they are coming to deliver it. And it is free, you are not buying. The same thing goes for fertilizer in some climes. And how can you access loans and grants? You can do barcoding for all the things that you produce, so you can monitor them. You can trace where it came from, at least for all the batches. I'm putting many things together right now. All right, so it is primitive. That they say your technology is primitive does not mean that cannot be digitalized. You can build upon it to make it more acceptable, okay, as per 21st century. The basics cannot be overlooked. That's the message here. Now, the basic things we need when you produce things from farm, what about the roads linking the farm to the city? We need good road networks, okay? And the technology for disease monitoring, detection, control to make resistant crops, all of these things are good. So we need more of indigenous knowledge, science-indigenous knowledge, like basically drawing from what we know as people within our culture. And then we can begin to combine this with artificial neural networks using fuzzy logic prediction about this indigenous knowledge on how to combat, mitigate, and go around drought, how to overcome that and still get value, get high yield from our farms, face flood, wildfire, to predict and to prevent that. There is a talk you can check on that. So mobile phones are delivered to farmers and they can use these things for data collection. And then there will be a data bank, maybe under some Ministry of Agri. All these things can be used for machine learning. The data can, when we gather more data, we have enough data points to work with. Research institutes, students can work with the data, can be used for students across board. And this can be used in policy making. We talk about favorable policy making, something friendly to really help this. Now, the future of food, we talk about 3D printing of food already. Maybe it's vegan diet, I wouldn't know. How can you print your food without really depending on animals or plant food? Some people like that. Some people go ahead to get superfood, maybe as novel sources of protein. You may not be able to like it when you hear that your milk is produced from cockroach. I'm just talking about the future of food. How well can people embrace that? I wouldn't know. They claim that cockroach milk is so rich in protein. All right, so you can just go over that. Some people talk about dog milk also, but we really need to get to that point? I leave that question to you. So if we harness digital technologies to improve food system, the outcomes is enormous. The outcomes are enormous. All right, so if I'm going to summarize the World Bank Group publication, maybe I've come across it, I wouldn't know. It talks about improving the performance of the food system, that it is central to reaching the sustainable development goals, like the zero net hunger, decent job for all. Then I would say, is farming a decent job? You can think about that, but it can be made decent depending on how well you handle it. Now, to expand digital opportunities for all also, including the farmers and people in agribusiness, this will really improve food system outcomes in both rural and urban areas. People don't have to drift to urban areas, leaving rural areas behind and running away from farm work. Then we can use digital technology to reduce cost, help farmers make more precise decisions in order to improve access to information, knowledge, and markets. We have lots of digital innovation connecting many things together in the modern world towards transforming the global food system. So it can be smart. So what is cooking? It depends on what people are doing. Can you grow out your food without soil? Are you still using it with soil? How can you use your phone to track a lot of things? This is where the future of food is going to across the world. I've talked about the black soldier fly larva. These are the things I've talked about. The larva itself can be fed to animals, either chicken or pig or any other thing, as source of protein, rather than having to make animals compete with humans for the same food that is now very, very expensive. So now for the AI area or digital area, there are many technologies you can use. I would just say you can consider Runlink Easy Coding. We have a fish farm that ran into trouble because their pump went off. So you can track that when such things happen, maybe in the middle of the night. If you send a signal, a buzzer alarm to the farm manager, the farm manager can quickly go over to check what is it and then fix it. In this case, it happened in Nepal and they lost 5,000 fishes overnight. So these are ways where you can digitalize things and monitor and guide against wastage of resources. So now we have cash crop farmers who are embracing RunLink here in Osun State to monitor their rubber plantation. Then we have this tracker for nomadic cattle in transit. That way you don't lose eye on any of your animals. And even when an animal enters your farm, depending on how smart your farm is, you can detect that. Even from a distance, you can see them coming and prevent them coming into your farm. And when they go there, you can quickly send a patrol team or response team to stop them from going too far to damage. We have people who have used it in Bhutan, for example, to chase away elephants affecting their crops. Here in Nigeria, there are rice planters who are disturbed by birds. How can you deploy this technology to guide against losses? And that will be all from here. Thank you for the privilege to speak.
For that wonderful presentation, for this wonderful presentation. Really appreciate the knowledge you've shared with us, the technology, innovation that which we can engage on using smart farming and Internet of Things to modernize agriculture. I really don't know if there are questions from our participants before we have a final wrap of the whole of today's session. Are there any questions? I think there was someone that raised his or her hand earlier. She's not online again. All right. In absence of no question, I would just like to start by appreciating Dr. Ajayi and also our wonderful presenter in person of Mrs. Reinhardt. And also we especially want to appreciate Dr. Godwin, representing the Director General of ITA, and really appreciate you all for how you really educated us on various aspects of food systems today. And on behalf of the Leadership Council of Sustainable Development Solutions Network, we really want to appreciate you for this wonderful time you've spent with us. I know that Professor Ngozi will definitely have something to say before we have the final wrap up. Definitely you are closing the session, Ma, and we appreciate you do that. Thank you very much.
Please, I want to seek your indulgence to run back to the defense that is ongoing.
All right, that's fine. Yeah. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to you for the time you've spent with us. We are really very grateful. And also to appreciate your wealth of knowledge that you have given to us. I hope and pray that next time when we call on you, you'll be willing and ready to be with us. Thank you so much. And also to thank every other one that has been with us, particularly facilitators. We are indeed very grateful. Our eyes are opened, our ears have heard so much, and I know that we are out there to do the needful. Yes, reaching out to everyone and making sure that everyone is taken along and not left behind. That's what we're trying to do. And I believe that with the little that we have heard today, sure, we'll be able to continue the race before the 2030 deadline that has been given to us. Thank you very much once again, and a very big thank you to the team led by our youth coordinator. We're really very grateful for the zeal that you've taken to go ahead with what we're doing. Thank you, and God bless you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Prof. Really appreciate you, Ma. We appreciate your contribution.
Thank you, Prof.
Always. And thank you, everyone. Our program manager, Mary Abimbola, thank you for working behind the scene all through the course of the program, and the entire team of Food First, the program team, and everyone that contributed to the success of this program. Really appreciate you all. Thank you. Look forward to your great innovation and solutions towards achieving it. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.